Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. We're going to do a DIY Dollar Tree farmhouse tall and squatty pumpkins. And we're just going to use 2 carvable pumpkins from the Dollar Tree, as well as our utility knife. This is my favorite one from the Dollar Tree. And then some hot glue. And then whatever paint or if you want to redo the stem, I'll show you some tricks and tips later. I'm going to use a Sharpie, but you could just use a pencil. But what we're going to do, and if you know me, which a lot of you do, I hate that all of these pumpkins are the same size. So I was really trying to decide, how can I take these pumpkins and make them multiple sizes? So when I went and did my little vignette, and you'll see that when I do my holiday tour, then I had one regular size pumpkin. I just painted it, and then I have 2 like this. So one, we're going to cut the bottom off about an inch and a half above, just where the pumpkin starts to curve. There's sort of like a section in the middle that's about an inch or inch and a half wide that doesn't really have too much of a drastic curve. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut basically the bottom off of one and the top off the other, and then we're going to swap them. Because these pumpkins all come from the same mold, all of their grooves are in the same spots. So as long as you get it cut relatively level, and I'll show you again like how to fix it when it's not level, as long as you get it basically relatively level, then you can go ahead and you can swap the pieces. And that's what I did. I was able to make a tall, skinny pumpkin. Not skinny, but sort of tall and sort of like hourglass shaped. It kind of comes in the middle a little bit, but I like that. And then I'm going to make a short, squatty pumpkin. And when the 2 of them are next to a regular pumpkin from the Dollar Tree, it does definitely give it a different look. Okay, and remember, these pumpkins are carvable, and they're meant to be carvable, so they cut up really, really easy. So you can see here, we're just going to swap them. And what I did was I took a piece of sandpaper. You can also just use, if you don't have sandpaper, you can use any rough surface. Like if you even wanted to take it out to your like sidewalk, and you could shave it down. But I just was trying to make the level even. Now you can see on my pumpkin, I didn't make it perfectly even. There are some spots that are higher on both pumpkins that touch, and they kind of leave like a big space. But we can fill that space in with hot glue. And I'll show you how to do that here in a second. But what I did to make it easier for me is once I had the pumpkin lined up, matched all of the grooves, I went ahead and I put a little Sharpie at the seam line on the top and bottom piece. So when I was ready to glue them back together, I didn't have to like really reline it again. I just basically lined up those 2 little tick marks, okay? And then you just want to use as much force as you can without breaking the pumpkin. So basically I put a ton of hot glue. I pushed the pumpkin top down on it, made sure it was lined up as best as I could, and I just gave it quite a bit of pressure. Again, this is 2 times speed, so it is, if you see me holding it for just 2 or 3 seconds, I'm actually holding it for 30, 40 seconds. Okay? Now you can see here where there are some spaces, and I'll show you then. Again, you just fill that in with hot glue, but you really want to make sure that the glue, your initial glue, is set up before you go ahead and add any more hot glue, because you don't want to risk the pumpkin coming back apart. Okay? I also make sure that you pre-line them up to see if you can sand down any really high peaks or high valleys. I was thinking, hindsight again, I'm always with the hindsight, that if I lined up 2 boards at the perfect height, you could use like a bread knife and keep the bread knife level, and you would be able to cut straight across. I don't have 2 boards that are the perfect height, and I know that a lot of you don't either. So I just basically took a Sharpie around. I used the technique that I've showed you guys before, where you hold the Sharpie and kind of hold your finger, your pinky out, and your hand as stiff as possible. Use your pinky as a guide underneath, and then you draw a circle around, and it will become mostly the same height. And again, I use a Sharpie, but you can use a pencil because you're not doing it on camera. So now you can go back in and you can kind of spackle. You could actually go in with spackle or some of the caulk that they have at the Dollar Tree. to fill in these cracks. But I realized something. These are Dollar Tree pumpkins, and they already, like, you already have, like, you could see the seams, and you could see like the pimpling and stuff. So I wasn't really so 100% keen on making it 100% smooth. But I will show you that it does take sandpaper to it. So if you really are, if you find that the seam is very objectionable, you could fill in all of your cracks and then go back in with sandpaper and smooth all of the shapes out. But I said to me and to Jim, I said, I think it looks cute just the way it is. But really go ahead and fix however you want it. But basically that's what you would do. You just fill it in with either hot glue or caulk, let it dry, and then go back in with sandpaper and just go ahead and smooth out whatever lumps and bumps you may have. But you see, I'm holding this for quite a while because I really want it to hold really well, okay? And then you pick all the glue off your table. Well, what happened was when I was pouring the glue on one side, it came out the back. So just be careful of that, okay? Now I'm taking the stems out because I'm going to paint these, and I'm going to use a paintbrush to insert into where the stem used to be so that I can paint the entire pumpkin at one time. Now these pumpkins, just like last year, just like anything that's like a finished surface, you coat them with chalk paint, and then you could get crackling because of the finish on the pumpkin if you make the coat too thick. I really thought that that was really charming, so I left it. But if that's something that you don't like, you want to make sure you take into consideration, maybe do two light coats of chalk paint instead of one heavy coat of chalk paint. Okay? And this is where I went ahead and I sanded, basically filled in with hot glue, and then took the sandpaper to the edges just to basically make it a little bit more of a smoother transition. But chalk paint is a very forgiving, well, not forgiving necessarily. It is, but that's not what I meant to say. It hides a multitude of sins, is what I meant to say. But I want to coat both of these because this orange is really bright. I want to give both of these a coat in white before I go ahead and add their finishing colors. Okay, one of them we're going to make that really nice blue-green that we used a couple of days ago. If this is your first video of mine in this week, I'll show you how to mix that paint. And then the other one we're just going to shade with gray. Okay, we're going to leave the big one white and make the small one blue, or blue-green, or teal, or whatever color. You'll see. But again, I am really slathering the paint on to try to fill in all those cracks and get it anywhere in the seam there, just to help fill it in almost like spackle. But it will crackle on me. Just keep that in mind. Again, if you don't want yours to crackle, definitely keep that in mind when you're painting. Okay? Now, I just have some weighted jars, heavy glass jars or whatever, that I stick these paintbrushes in to hold the pumpkin upright. So that's just a sort of a little tip or trick. One jar, I actually have a plastic jar that actually has a paint bottle in it. And that's also helped to weight, to hold the pumpkin down. And now for the little squatty one, I also painted it white first. And then I gave it a good coat of paint. And then once I have that whole pumpkin painted up, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to set it to dry. Now, a couple of things that I didn't mention that we needed. Again, I said that at the end we were going to make 2 different stems, and we're going to make some tendrils. So we're going to use some wired jute. But if you can't find the wired jute, I have videos on my channel that show you how to wrap jute around wire to make the tendrils if you want that look. And I'm also going to use some leaves from the Dollar Tree or the Dollar General. I actually think the two that I picked out are from. The Dollar General had really cute leaves last year. I haven't been there for autumn yet. And if you want, they're just $1 too, for $1 as well for all of the ones that you get there. And now that the white's dry, we're going to go ahead and we're going to paint these, like I said, the color. So now, after the first coat of paint is set, you're going to go ahead and inspect if you need to fill in any more glue in any of the cracks. Like sometimes you think it's full, and then when you go and look, the white paint can really show you where you could add more glue. Okay, so if you need that, go ahead and fill that in now. Because there will be white paint under the glue, it'll still work as a nice coat. You won't have to put another coat of white back on, is what I'm trying to say. So now I'm just showing you, I have a little jar that was a leftover chalk paint. I added some water to it, and I've been using it as like a chalk whitewash. What I added to it was some of the Spanish moss and 2 or 3 drops of a midnight blue from Apple Barrel, and I just slowly added a little bit of each, gave it a good shake up, and then tested it. I will tell you though, I did want it to be a little lighter. I forgot, and I know this is so stupid for me to get stuff, and I'm a teacher. I'm not supposed to forget stuff. But I forgot how much darker the paint will dry. So the first way I compared the caps was the best way. I should have just left it there. But I thought it was a little too light at first, so I went ahead and I added a little bit more blue and a little bit more green. I do like it. I do like it a lot. I just really wanted it much paler. But it came out really cute. And then I mixed the 2 colors as just straight without any white in it, and we're going to use that for shading. So what you do is you coat the entire pumpkin with your blue, your light color, and then while it's wet, I worked in sections. I took a fine brush and I took the dark color and I basically laid it in the seams or the cracks or the valleys, perhaps, if the pumpkin's ridges are hills and valleys. So you want to lay some of the dark color in the valley, and then you want to blend it in until it just gives you a little bit darker of the color that you have. And basically all this does is it enhances the look of the valleys, and it actually just makes the pumpkin seem a little bit more realistic. When you buy these pumpkins at this popular style this last few years, they sort of have this like shading on them. So we wanted to go ahead and do that. I have a video on my channel from last year about making pumpkins, farmhouse pumpkins, the ones that we used in the plunger DIY. That video, we also went ahead and antiqued a pumpkin. So it's sort of the same technique, it's just with color. Okay? Now, if you find yourself putting too much dark, you can always take the light paint back over it and go over the hills at the top, like hit the tops of the peaks of the hills, just to give that more dimension back, okay? And now for the other one, we're just going to mix a gray. This is just, I added some Castle Gray to white, and we're just going to paint the pumpkin white, and then we're going to add some gray in the valleys, okay? Now, this is the one that I made a longer pumpkin, so I think it looks super cute. So you just be mindful when you go in the valley that you don't skip along that glue seam and maybe puddle up some paint. That's my only other tip for this. And then you're going to do this all the way around to your liking. So if you like it to have a really stark contrast, if you like to have it a very muted contrast, that's really your preference. If you add too much darkness and you want to lighten it back up, just go back over with the white, okay? So here's the next day. They're dry. Now I'm going to take one of the wooden stems or the wooden branches. This is the longer of the branches from the Dollar Tree. It was gifted to me. So I'm going to find one that I think looks like a cute pumpkin stem. This particular branch, which it's hard to tell, is a little wider at the bottom, which I kind of felt like a little bit like a branch to me. And I decided to put that in the big pumpkin. Again, just sometimes they're easy, sometimes they're more complicated. Now the stem that I'm going to currently wrap, which looks a little bit more realistic than the foam stem that they give you, was actually from a velvet pumpkin. We made the velvet pumpkin in the middle of the topiary the other day, and I had the 2 stems left over, and I really like them. They are really more realistic than really all the other stems. So what I've done is I've decided to take a piece of nautical rope. I've divided the sections. I'm just using one, and it's kind of twisted already, so I kind of went with the twist. This stem's base, where it meets the pumpkin, almost has like 5 points, almost like a star. So I just used the nautical rope's natural lumps, hills, rounds, twists, bends to go along that 5-star point. And then I just layered and twisted until I got past the tip. And then what I did was I continued to glue onto the rope as opposed to gluing onto the stem. So once I got to the top, I added glue to the top of the rope section, and I just kept adding rope, and twisting it around until I got to the size and shape that I wanted. If you want this to be extra long, don't forget you can always add some wire to the stem before you go ahead and wrap it, and this way you can just wrap it around the wire, and then you can bend it and twist it and put it in the shape that you want. For a stem this big though, using the nautical rope, I would recommend getting the thicker floral wire from the Dollar Tree, either the green coated one or the ones that come in the colors over by the arts and crafts section. Okay, and then when you get it the way you want, just put it back in the pumpkin. I didn't glue it, I just stuck it in. Now I'm going to add leaves. I decided to put a sort of a brown orange leaf on the green pumpkin and sort of a green leaf on the white pumpkin. And I wanted this one to stand up, so I'm kind of put it up against the stem. Now we're going to make tendrils. Now again, we do have DIYs on our channel that shows you how to make jute covered wire. But this is the wired jute from the Dollar Tree already. You just want to make sure you glue the ends after you cut them or before you cut them. Twist them around your finger, and then you have tendrils. I added 2 tendrils to each pumpkin. And that's it. I hope you really enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, give this video a thumbs up. If you have any questions at all, go ahead and leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to share this video with friends and family. Anybody you know might be interested in making any of these pumpkins, any different shapes, any different sizes. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe, and when you do, a little bell will pop up. When you ring that bell, YouTube will let you know whenever I upload a new video. And as always, you take care, God bless, and we'll see you next time. Bye!